Before I start this video off, I want to give a quick thank you. If you want to go ahead and skip to the main video, the time code will be right here. I kind of want to make this quick. This video is already kind of dragging on a lot longer than it needs to be. But I just really want to just take a moment and just say thank you guys a lot. I know that I only really have like 26 subscribers right now or something like that. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is just, the general support in the comments and stuff. I know I don't post regularly. I'm really trying to get to that point. I thought I had a schedule. I was gonna try and post on like Fridays, but with work and just the days I have off, it actually didn't work out at all. So I'm just trying to, get that back in line and just kind of figure out balancing work and filming, skating, and then making videos and posting, because I do want to be, able to post weekly. But main point of this is thank you, so much for the support, just all the nice words you guys say in the comments and stuff. It does mean a lot to me, everything, just everything in general. I really do appreciate all the support you guys give me, and it really makes me want to improve and get better. And so I just, want to say thank you. I'm definitely gonna try and get more consistent. So if you bear with me these next, few weeks, hopefully we can kind of get a working schedule going to where things are just mostly normal on this. But that aside, hope you enjoy the video. If this actually is helpful and you make some Heelys out of it, definitely let me know. I'd love to see them. I know that this wasn't the most clear thing. This isn't the best video I've made, that's true by a long shot, but I just needed to get something put out. I've had this just sitting on the back burner for forever, so it was finally time to just throw it together and get it out there. Not the best video, but I'm just glad I've gotten one out there. But that aside, let's go ahead and get to the video, and I'll see you guys after. You ever want to skate without a skateboard? Hey skaters of all types, skill levels, and everything in between, welcome back once again to the Skateboarding Made. This video is very different from all the other videos. This one is going to be a DIY video. Now you see, I was recently binging an anime, Shinibyo, and for some reason after watching it, I really felt nostalgic for Heelys. I have no idea why.
Well then.
I can't believe you have roller skates in your shoes. Are you a kid?
They provide excellent mobility. Also, with these, when I come under enemy fire, clang clang, bam!
But I've really been wanting to ride them, so I thought, maybe I should make a pair, because you can buy pairs, but as an adult, it's pretty hard to come by Heelys these days, it seems, And after some research, I found they're also pretty expensive, like stinking 50, 60 bucks, which, that's, normal price for shoes, I guess. But for a pair of Heelys that you can't really, find in most sizes, especially if you're a bigger person, unlike me, well, that kind of sucks. So I thought, why not just take a pair of Heelys, take out the wheelbase, and transfer it into a pair of shoes that you like. Maybe a pair with some actual good support. So that's what we're going to be trying to do today here. I just have these super cool Vans with lightning stripes, because lightning is just, awesome and wicked and cool. And I have these pairs of Heelys. I actually got these new for $25 from Amazon. Now, full disclosure, these do fit me, but I still like these shoes much more, and they have much better support in the heel. These, all the padding, there's not much padding in these shoes, because obviously there's a wheelbase, but there's just, the same thin layer over that as there is in the toes. And having so many skate Vans, because, I buy a few couple pairs just to last me and I blow through them. I have a few left over of the skating insoles, which would be way better in this for these than just the stock garbage insoles that's in these. So we're going to just kind of start by getting a kind of look at these guys. Here's the other shoe. So we're going to kind of start by getting a look at these guys and just kind of seeing, you know, how they're kind of built, how we can transfer that into the vans that we have, and then kind of proceed from there, just the whole process. Kind of want to break it all down for you. I'm also going to take a little bit more of an in-depth look with a guide as well, just so you have that to go by as well, just in case you want to follow along with a visual step-by-step rather than a video. I'll put that in the description, as well as, you know, the link to these vans. But I do really recommend just maybe looking on like eBay or something secondhand, because if you're going to destroy a perfectly good pair of shoes, I think it's better to just use secondhand shoes that have gone past their prime anyways, and it's going to be a lot, you know, better for the environment and such like that. Only thing is, maybe you're going to have some issues like with a little wheel cap or something, but if, you know, you can swing it, or maybe if you can't, it might be better for you to go for that option. But if not, I will link below, you know, the Amazon page where I got these guys. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this. So the first thing I'm going to do to kind of really break this down is I'm going to kind of, you know, take a look at the shoe, see how it's built, what's put together, what's inside it, and kind of go from there. Also, new Heelys have a wicked cool little, I guess you could still call this a skate tool, but for these guys, it's a nice little J hook, and it's got the back that you can, you know, pop the little wheel cap off of. And the hook is actually great because if you have these, you know, stinking little wheels here, obviously, if you've ever used Heelys, and if not, this would be a great little demonstration for you. Usually you stomp them in, so this isn't nearly as terrible. Oh dear. There we go. But if you ever have used Heelys, you'll know that there's these little axles that it clicks into, and that's how it stays in. Now this guy solves a problem that I always had as a kid because it was basically a T-tool, but this one actually hooks the wheel, and you can just straight pull it out on, you know, either side. So just pull it out there, pull it out here, comes out a billion times easier. So I'm actually very stoked about that. But getting into this, we're not going to be nearly as precise as this, but I do find it interesting, so I'm going to notate all of the measurements basically. I have some digital calipers here. So from just, there's like a bit of an inlay, which says it is 0.13 inches. Which also translates to 3.3 millimeters. And that's just kind of how inset it is. So maybe if, you know, we're going for that, we will keep that in mind, since this is the part that has the inlay on the, I guess you could call these kind of like the hooks for the wheel. That's not a technical term, but that's just what I'm going to call it. I'm going to refer to that by the hooks. But, so we're going to start by going ahead and cutting these open and getting this part out. Now, it's going to help a lot doing this if you have fresh razor blades. So I do recommend getting a pack of some fresh razor blades. I don't know how many you might want to get, but I would recommend doing that. And I'm gonna go ahead and start getting this cut open, and I'll be right back with you, okay? Okay, we're still going. Good. Good, 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 good. Oh dear. Okay, cool. So I'm going to start cutting this open. So my plan to kind of cut this open is obviously take off these caps. Definitely going to set them aside because I'm going to try to keep them because I think it's nice to not have to wear the wheel on this guy. Kind of, you know, helps with walking because it's kind of like walking in a very weird wedged tennis shoe, which, I mean, I don't know if you ever walked in heels or anything like that, but it's not the best experience ever. But, so I'm just going to try and save these caps and see if I can, you know, incorporate them back into the shoe, which is why I think that little bit of that inset I was talking about earlier is going to be important because it's going to help, you know, with how this cap sits. Basically, we just need to accommodate the thickness of this cap so that when we put it down on the shoe, it'll actually stay flush with the actual sole. That being said, I'm going to go for cutting this open. I have a fresh razor blade. Again, I really stress getting fresh razor blades. It's going to be way easier to cut into your shoes than if you were just use some dull razor blade that you've had in forever. They're like $4 or $5. It really is something I'd recommend doing. But we're just going to go ahead and just kind of cut down from the side here. At least that's my plan. And as you can see, this thing is just literally shredding through this with no effort whatsoever. It's genuinely a little bit terrifying because that's just cut it right down. But just gonna keep going down and try to not ruin my table while I'm at it. Okay, now we're in the rubber here. Really, you know, do be careful when you're cutting things here. And I'm just going to start cutting from the bottom here. And we can see if we split this guy open after cutting that out a little bit. Oh, goodness. We can actually see the wheelbase right down here. And the insole. It's actually a pretty thick foam insole. Actually, that's a lie. This thing is not thick at all. Okay, give me 1 second here. This is... Oh dear goodness, okay. This is kind of terrible actually. Here, let me cut through the rest of the rubber because it's kind of molded around the toe cap. Give me a second here, check this thing out. I'll definitely clean this up later too. Pro tip, if you're having a little bit of trouble pulling it apart, don't be afraid to use a little bit of force. Look at this. So I thought, oh, this is pretty thick, you know, that might be good, but actually, this little guy right here, give me a second. This is what's between your toe, your heel, and a wheel. It is literally like, what, 2 millimeters thick? Actually, let's check. We have professional measuring equipment. Yeah, it's like 3 millimeters thick. That's what's between your heel and the wheel. No wonder these things are so uncomfortable. Because this is just a giant foam block. And the wheel's literally right in there. It's just... Oh my gosh. I mean, I understand, but could have at least given these kids better insoles. Come on, you guys. Sheesh. Anyways, this guy's almost about out. You just need to kind of coax him out the rest of the way. Maybe cut into the shoe a little bit more so that we can spread it a little bit. I know I've already stressed this many times, but use a new knife. It really makes cutting a breeze. I've seen a few people do this, and I mean, I'll link their videos below because, well, I came up with this idea myself in my head. I am fully aware that I am not the only person that's done it. I looked around first to kind of see what people may have done for DIY Heelys, if I would need one or not, and some people did have the same idea as me, so I'll go ahead and, you know, link like the video I watched that did that too. I think the guy made it with like Timberlands, so I mean, hey, if that's your vibe, you might want to go watch his, because he struggled greatly to get those things open, but maybe it'll help you if you ever try to use Timbs instead of Vans like me. But, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just finish this up. I'm actually just gonna pull this guy off and get back to you in just a moment, okay? Alright, so I got the two wheel bases out here. I got them mostly cleaned up. I know they look pretty white still from the rubber, but I got them mostly cleaned up to the best of my ability. And now we're gonna go ahead and put these aside for now, and we're going to focus on the shoes. So I did do a little bit of testing with just a pair of Vans I bought at Goodwill for like, $5, something like that. So from Vans perspective, I can at least tell you how it goes. This may definitely be different depending on what shoe you're using. Do use a thicker, soled one, because obviously you have to bear in mind this cap right here obviously is going to be sticking up and in it. And I mean, as you can see, this doesn't necessarily completely go, right within the insole. It does stick up a little bit, but we'll get into that in just a bit here, kind of how this kind of sits in the whole shoe. Because again, I was testing it, so at least for Vans, I can tell you kind of the secret to, working with it. But first step obviously is going to be to unlace the shoe if you lace them up like I have. So after you got it mostly unlaced, the next part is going to be, before anything, actually getting the kind of insole out of here, because we're actually going to be working with just the sole of the shoe. Stock Vans don't really have what you would call a great insole, but that's just the thing to start with, is by removing this guy. So these are a little bit tricky to get into. You kind of got to dig underneath them and tear them up, but if you go through the middle, they kind of come up fairly easy, so just kind of work it out. It'll take a little bit of, there you go. The toes tend to stick a little bit, so you may want to fully remove it unless you're going to replace the insole like I am, in which case it may not matter too much. But you can see there's a bit of cloth underneath here, so just hold off on that for right now, because at this point what we want to do is trace the cap, kind of wherever it feels right. For Heelys, I know obviously just be aware you're going to pivot on the heel, just so kind of place it close to the end, so that when you're pivoting, the wheel has enough lift so that you don't just drag your heels when it's rolling, because that's obviously going to inhibit your heeling abilities. It's actually kind of interesting. If you looked at the original Heelys, I'm kind of destroyed at this point, but the original Heelys actually have like a diagonal cutout, which is obviously because they're intended to be used like that. You can, cut the shoe diagonally if, you don't really have any kind of fears about that. I'm going to try to just keep it a little bit closer to the heel to avoid that myself, but we'll see here. But first step we do want to do is, obviously just trace this out. Not the wheel, sorry. We want to trace this out on here. So again, I'm going to kind of keep it a little bit closer. And this is something to keep in mind, is how wide your shoe is, because a slightly slimmer shoe, like the shoes I bought were just some women's shoes, and if I was going to make Heelys with those, I would probably want to get a smaller pair of Heelys, because they're going to have a smaller wheelbase, which will fit inside the shoe much better than would for those ones, because those ones, they were hugging the walls. This actually has some room on the wall, like those ones are literally right on the ends, so keep that in mind. But just start by tracing out your little cap here. It may help to measure how far back you are, because if you're doing two of them, well, you are going to be doing two of them, so you want to make sure that they're the same distance apart. I'm doing it about like 0.5 inches away from me, so it's going to be about 0.5 inches on each side or so, something like that. So just trace it out, and then we'll get around to cutting it out. It's not going to be very perfect depending on your sole. I have these waffle soles, so it kind of doesn't really trace very well, but just do your best. And again, use a new razor blade after you've cut those ones out, because that thing, while it doesn't dull, it dulls a lot for cutting the rubber out of your insole. So just use a new blade, and then you're going to probably want to use some pliers, because I've found with Vans, this is, solid on the bottom, but underneath, like, the first 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch of this, it becomes kind of, I guess that's the cup pattern that, you hear me, your waffle cup. I'm pretty sure it's something like underneath the rubber, the first layer, there's like a bit of a kind of webbed cup pattern. So that's actually going to be to our advantage, which I'll get into later, but just start by cutting this out. I'm going to cut this out right now, and then I'll get back to you guys on that, so give me just a moment here, okay? Okay, these vans are actually built differently from the ones that I was testing with. So these just have a rubber layer underneath this rubber layer, so there's just a double rubber layer. Okay. That throws a little wrench in my plans, I guess. But still, nothing we can't work with. This actually is probably going to be a lot easier to work with in this case. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get that set aside here. So you can kind of just see how you're planning to do it. So it's going to basically go through. But what we want to do is have this layer kind of sit in between the rubber sole. So basically what we want is this little layer right here to sit in between the rubber of, you can kind of see where I'm going with this. This layer goes right underneath that, and this sits on top. And then we can kind of adjust it, and then we'll seal it in place. I'm just going to use some like Flex Seal caulking, because rubber will bond to rubber kind of nicely and, close up any gaps we might have. But so basically, my plan after that was to cut just around the insole here and then lift it up. Not cutting through it, but just cutting around so we can lift it up and then carve out what we need so that this will sit flushly down in here and, be underneath, and we can lay this layer back down and it can be underneath it or over top of it. We can cut out this little square if we need to, but that was the original plan. I think we're still going to try and go for that because it seems like it could work, but let me see here. Yeah, because that's not going to lift. So I'm still going to try and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and carve that out. It'll make a little sense when I kind of get through it so I can show you. But let me go ahead and get on that, and I'll be right back for you, okay? You may have at this point noticed a bit of a change in camera quality. And there is a reason for that. My camera died, so we are on the phone now. Welcome to the backup camera. And I have done one shoe, and I'm kind of showing you the process on the other. This one came up a little bit differently. This third layer actually came up along with the two blue foam layers, this blue foam layer and this black foam layer. This one was down last time. I had to cut through it. It's like this kind of clothy, canvasy one. But it came up on this one. But basically, what I was trying to get at before was that there is this layer, this like rubberized layer underneath the sole layer, which you can actually get between. And what we were doing is we're cutting up from the rubberized layer so that we could peel that up, but still be underneath the sole, so that the little, this little wheel cup can sit between basically the sole and this little rubber sheet, so it can be kind of, sandwiched in place by the bottom rubber and then all the top layers. It just, is a nice little sandwich. Although with this, it might work out better if we can just cut one layer out altogether. What I'm going to do is just kind of place this down and kind of see around where it lies. Just, push it up against the heel, because basically, you just want this around right, if you can see that, I'm not sure, but you can see, no, probably not, it's a little bit too dark in there. If you're lucky enough and can see, you just want to push like the back of this right against the heel, and then just kind of mentally mark where it kind of, connects, give or take, and just kind of take your knife and just gently carve alongside that path. Basically, you don't want to go through the bottom rubber layer, but you do want to go through the top rubber layer, so you can peel it back and just sit this in between everything else. So I'm just going to go ahead, and again, I'm going to go ahead and just carve through that, just so we can kind of sit all this in, and then this is almost done after this point. Now you can see that we have the little wheelbase in here, But before we kind of settle it in and, you know, glue it in and stuff, what you want to do is grab the cap and actually put that on there so that, you know, you make sure that it sits flush when it's being, you know, pressed down, because otherwise you're going to be walking and wobbling if you don't have the wheel in or do have it in, and you don't want that. So just, you know, make sure it sits flush as you can really get it. You can kind of eyeball it too, because, I mean, you know, it's going to be mostly fine. But, you know, adjust it here and there. And then you want to, you know, apply your glue at that point when you get it kind of, you know, settled in. We're doing something a little bit strange, but it'll make sense after you kind of, you know, get it going. But basically, what we want to do is kind of, you know, put this down a little bit just before it kind of hits the wheelbase, so you can kind of bend it and see. So it's about right here for me. So what you're going to do is kind of try and crease that a little bit and mark it with a Sharpie around where that crease is. Go like a little bit underneath just so you don't entirely, you know, hit it. And what you're actually going to do is cut that part of the insole off, because it's going to be a lot easier just to kind of cut the strip out and accommodate the wheelbase this way rather than trying to kind of go around it, because it can be a little bit of a pain that way. So just go ahead and cut the rest of the insole off right there. And then again, just cut this kind of, you know, just, you can kind of cut it out just by trial and error what will fit around that little wheelbase. And then when you get a good shape, then you can apply all the glue to, you know, the layers. Just apply back to the middle layer here, then the layer right there, and let that, you know, cure so it's locked in place. And also, I would say, if you can, try to like maybe seal up around the ends here with a bit of the glue if you can too. Depending on what you're using, you may be able to get in there, you may not. I'm using just some of this, you know, Flex Seal for that, just to kind of keep it all in place. It's all, you know, kind of bonding with the whole fact that it's a rubber sole. But again, just kind of carve it out, then glue it down. If you can weigh this down, I definitely would recommend that. I know it might be a little bit hard because it's a shoe and it's kind of an awkward shape, but if there's like some way you can kind of weigh it down or something like that, that would probably be a good idea. And after that, it's basically done. If you know, you can get all the cracks and crannies all glued down and it's all good. Just, you may want to add a second insole or something like that to the top layer, since, you know, that wheelbase is fairly proud. Just, you know, you might need to carve out a little bit of the top for the base to kind of sit, so you're not like lift it up, it's still where it should be. But apart from that, it's good to go. But I'm gonna go ahead and just, you know, get this carved out, get the insoles placed in, glued up, and we'll get back to you on that, okay? Remember when I said that this video is coming out really soon, like a month ago? I'm sorry about that. But anyways, yeah. If you didn't really understand anything in the video, go ahead and let me know in the comments. I'll try and clarify. I know that maybe it wasn't necessarily the most clear in some spots, and I'm more than glad to help out where I can. But here's the finished shoe. It's a little bit hard to see because my camera saturation is really bad right now on this for some reason. Try and kind of cover it a little bit, but actually turned out really good. I'm really happy with it. The wheel kind of can look a little bit weird sometimes because like the Flex Seal was clear, so it kind of dries and looks a little bit murky. But it holds amazing and it rides really good. I kind of want to try replacing these bearings with like skateboard bearings someday, see if that'll work. But that aside, these actually work super good. And I get so many compliments on them every time I go out. It's so much fun. People just love these things. And because they're kind of, Heelys have kind of gone away and being, you know, mainstream, they don't, you don't get kicked out for wheeling around in stores. So it's a great way to get around like fries or something like that. I love it. But that aside, hope you guys learned something. Again, if you make any, definitely share them. I'd love to see them. But that being said, that's the video for today. Definitely gonna try and have another one out next week. But yeah, whether it's a good morning or a good night, toodle pip. I'll see you guys in the next one.